Welcome to the Pigskin Party Podcast, the only podcast that combines real NFL analysis with a splash of pop culture and a dash of the random. Let's get this Pigskin Party started with your hosts, Brian McFadden, Will Southard, and Tommy Yu.
Welcome to the Pigskin Party Podcast presented by DraftKings. I am your host, Brian. We still don't have everybody here. We have a different person on this week. Will, who so courageously last week attempted to join while driving, which is, in retrospect, probably not the safest thing to do. Tommy is not out of town. He's not on a work trip, not in a murdery hotel, not on a highway, but having technical difficulties and internet connections. But you know what, Will? You're here. We're glad to have you back. How you feeling, dude?
I'm good, brother. It's Christmas time. I just got back from hot off the heels of a Tom Brady, just overtime, amazing, outstanding. I thought we were going to lose a game.
That turned into a great game.
I was a little concerned because we were with half Bills fans, and there were a lot of Bills fans, like a lot of them. And in the first half, when Allen threw that pick, the guy behind me slammed his beer on the ground, which spritzed all of us. And I'm like, all right, this is not gonna be a fun game. Like, this is also getting kind of boring. I kind of felt bad. And then we went to our coworker Joe. We went halftime, and I was like, nah, dude, I'm worried about the second half. Like, this is And then came out, and the Tampa should have lost with the way they played in the second half. Brady missed a lot of stuff, but anyway, we'll talk about that game later. It's a good week. They pulled it out, had a great time. I went to the casino, won some money in poker.
Oh, nice.
Got a little Christmas bonus action happening. I got a PS5. I found a PS5 online.
You found it?
On Walmart, yeah.
Oh, you made it sound like you found, like it's just lying on the corner.
No,
And you're like, oh, there's a PS5. I think I'll take it.
So it's been good, man. It's been good. I almost successfully quit the show, but here I am back.
Just when you think
close.
you're out, we
So
pull
close.
you back in. Yeah, we're not. You're too tied to the financial benefits of being on this show for free.
$0.
$0, and that $0 is you can't get that just anywhere. Well, we're glad to have you back. Wish we had the full crew. Maybe Tommy will jump in. We've let him know that if his internet gets fixed, if he's in Boondocks, Philly suburb, wherever he's living, jump in the show. We don't care at what point it is. We're glad to have him. We'll try to have him on for the flavor of the week when we do the game previews and the draft. But either way, it's a pigskin party. We roll with it. We don't know what's going to happen. That's half the fun. So, Will, what do you say we go ahead and jump into recapping all of the Week 14 games? And, of course, after that, we'll follow it up with our DFS Higher and Flyers presented by DraftKings. I've been doing it. Anthony's thrown in some picks. But we've got the man, the myth, the legend when it comes to DFS, Will, on. So he will be ready to drop those DFS nuggets on you. So let's go ahead and jump right into it. Thursday Night Football, Minnesota Vikings. Oh, by the way, I got to preface something. Because last week, Will, you went 0-14 or whatever because you literally didn't give us your picks. You're like, whatever. This week, you almost did the same thing had I not messaged you. And by the way, you know what? Let's take a win away from Will. So I messaged you on Sunday morning. I said, Will, what are your picks? And you're like, oh, I don't know. I'm at the game. All the Vegas favorites. So, Anthony, I know we chalked him up with a win for this game Minnesota, which was a favorite. You told me that Sunday morning this should be a loss.
No,
for you.
It should be. However, your theory is predicated on the fact that I watched that game and knew the outcome, which I did not. So when I told you that pick, I had no idea how that game turned out, and here we are. No, that's actually
I was actually about to say I 100% believed that you had no idea what happened in that game. But I'm going to stick to the Vegas line, and you can't tell your bookie that happened 3 days ago. I don't know what happened, but I'm betting on the winner. Give me my money.
You're
So
damn right. I didn't have to watch the game. I just saw enough tears from people crying about Dalvin Cook going off that I kind of got an idea of how the game turned out.
with his 200-yard 2-touchdown performance.
People that
I'm
did
assuming.
not play Dalvin Cook is who I mean.
People on the other side of the Dalvin Cook monster game. Well, yeah, so both Tommy and I, we're not counting it. You're getting a loss. Anthony, we're going to change in the picks, all right? So Tommy and I both picked Minnesota to win this game. They're favored by 3.5. They covered 36-28. Good. Go Vikings. You know, who knows? You really don't know what you're getting out of this team. This is another game where the Vikings started off absolutely dominating this Steelers team. Since the offseason was just not going to be any good. Their defense is now a liability on top of their offense just being dreadful. Kudos to them for clawing their way back in. It started to look like they might make this game, but ultimately Minnesota walks away 36-28. Will, I would turn it to you, but you have commentary?
Yeah, this is good. See, this is just like I'm a fan who just wants news, so I'll just ask questions. Let's do it.
Okay.
However, I will. This is the. I mean, everybody saw the Chase Claypool thing, right? And
oh yeah.
You know, he
had a few things.
I feel like every few years we get this narrative about like, has Mike Tomlin lost the locker room, right? But here it comes again, circling back to talk about the environment in Pittsburgh, and I don't know. I mean, how do you? I mean, like you watched it. Like, obviously, it wasn't his best look considering all of what he's just recently done, right? Which is talking about the vibe at practice and all that kind of stuff. But what did you think?
Wanting music to be played.
Yeah, I mean, what did you think?
So there was a few instances in this game. What got all of the media attention after the game was he got their 0 timeouts. They're driving to try to get a game-tying touchdown. He gets the first down and starts celebrating, like points his finger. And then one of the offensive guards, I can't remember who, for the Steelers, comes over and tries to get the ball because they're in a hurry. There's like 30 seconds left. And they like fumble it because Claypool doesn't know what's going on. But earlier in the game, he got I believe this was in the first quarter, a bad unsportsmanlike conduct where he shoved the face of one of the Vikings defenders, and the defender retaliated, and it's one of those instances where normally the second person gets it, but the ref saw the whole thing and just penalized Claypool, and Tomlin benched him for a while after that, and you could see him Tomlin getting in his face, and you know, you don't know what he was saying, but it wasn't kind. So there were multiple instances, along with, as you mentioned, Will, the whole, let's play some music during practice, and that pissed Tomlin off. That this is now a track record. This isn't like a one-off thing, and as you mentioned also, this is not the first time Tomlin's had a player do this. I don't know if he's like Belichick, where he just, rules with an iron fist, and some of these young 20-something-year-old guys just want to have fun. But we're talking AB, right? Le'Veon Bell, Juju, who stayed, but he had the whole thing with the TikTok dancing, and now we've got Chase Claypool. I mean, you can't question Tomlin's coaching. It's in jeopardy now, but he still has never had a losing season as a head coach. But this is now a pattern with players doing this, and Claypool just seems like the latest example.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of Tomlin as a coach, but I don't know, man. What's Ben's status? Did he? I was trying to see. Did he get hurt, or is he okay?
I didn't see anything major. He was hit a lot by the Vikings pass rush. That defense just played. They were all over it. This Steelers couldn't move the ball until late into the second half. But as far as his injury status, he should be good. I don't see any issues. I mean, if they had a halfway decent backup, I think they would. I would recommend benching Ben, but they can't go to Mason Rudolph. As bad as Ben is right now, and I looked it up, PFF, he is rated like 30th out of like 36th qualifying quarterbacks in PFF grade. Future Hall of Famer, all due respect, yada yada, but he is an awful quarterback right now.
I just mentioned that because, I mean, Deontay Johnson is kind of eating a little bit in that offense, right? I mean, he's soaking up targets.
That's the thing. It's volume driven. He's, I think, third in the NFL in targets. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, he went 5 for 76, 15-yard average. So 10 targets was so, I just asked because it looks like probably a pretty good play this week, actually. So we'll talk about that, but enough about that game.
All right. Well, let's move on to the Sunday games and talk about some games maybe you know something about. Probably not, because you were at the Bucs-Bills game. You know what? Let's jump to that. This is not in order, but I want to get you heated up. Let's go ahead and jump to your Tampa Bay Buccaneers, 33-27, walk-off touchdown.
Buffalo? You
I
picked
did.
Buffalo? What is wrong with you?
And I
In
was
Tampa?
almost right. Here was my logic. Because once again, you would know if you listened to the show, but I know you don't listen. So I figure after that Monday debacle with the wind issues and losing to the Patriots at home, I thought McDermott, a lot of those players were angry. This is a high-powered Bills offense. I thought they would come out slinging it like they did in the second half. And I knew that the biggest weakness for this Bucs defense is the secondary. So I just thought the matchup worked run the ball. Clearly, under normal circumstances, they definitely don't want to.
Right.
Exactly. So normal circumstances, they don't want to. You especially can't against the Bucs. They didn't give a handoff to a running back until the second half.
Yeah.
So that was my logic, and it almost came true. They got a rougher start. They didn't start till the second half. But Josh Allen, over 100 yards rushing and 300 yards passing. It was basically at Josh Allen versus the Bucs, and he almost pulled it off. So give us your thoughts. You were there. Tell us what it was like in person.
I mean, I yelled out "I love you" in the general direction of Tom Brady a few times, and then
Not the first time you did that. You did that in Washington as well.
I did. I also yelled out "I love you" also at Gronk because he did not play in the Washington game. So there was a lot of that, but no, I mean, the first half kind of spoke for itself. Leonard Fournette is still playing out of his mind. I don't know what it is with Tom Brady's rushing lately, but I think you know how like when you've beaten the game and you just kind of want to screw around. I feel like that's Tom Brady. He's
turning on to ultra hard mode and just see how
exactly. He's like, I'm gonna get 20 yards this game. And you saw Bruce Arians after the game was like, how do you feel about that? He's like, that's enough of that shit. Like,
I love BA, man. Says it like it is.
I mean, Chris, it was just a good game for everybody. I will say in criticism, Tom Brady missed a lot of throws that could have made that game a blowout. And then the second half just shouldn't have been that close. But hats off to Perriman for being fast still. I thought that was Tyler Johnson who caught it, but I was too busy losing my mind to
going nuts and needing a new pair of pants.
Here's the other thing. So this is not about the game, but it's about the game. I'm not super great with heights, right? I'm not. And so it was a work trip. And
heights like determining how tall a person is, or like being high up in the air.
Why would I be not so great at determining how tall a person is?
I know some people aren't. They're like, I don't know how tall that person is. They could be 4'10". They could be 6'1".
I'm pretty good at that. I'm talking about being in the air. I'm a large dude. We should not be airborne. So it was a work trip. So we bought a block of 12 tickets, and it was the only block of 12 tickets that was available when I bought them. And if you've ever been to Bucs Stadium, the lower section is about probably a 45-degree incline going up. It's not so bad. The upper section is probably like 60 or 70. It's ridiculous. And we were about 5 rows from the top. So you take the escalator all the way up to the top, and that's not so bad. I mean, it's palm trees, it's Florida, it's Tampa, it's beautiful. Then we got out to you walk out to the concourse, and you got to go up to your seats. So we were row Z. So I'm just walking, and I'm not
Z. So the last row in that section.
Well, it goes to AA, BB.
Oh, it doubles up. Okay.
It only goes to EE. That's it. There's only 5 more rows. So we walk up, and I'm not looking behind me, right? I'm just walking, and I'm clumping all. We started at A, so it was far, and I get and turn around in my seat, and I look down at the field, and I'm
get some vertigo.
I'm like, oh my god! The other seat in front of me was only a foot and a half, 2 feet. It was not far. So I leaned back in the seat, and I put my arms on the other seats, and I'm like, whoo, I don't know. I started to get a little anxious. I'm like, I don't know if I could do this for this game. But we settled in a little bit. We were all smashed in there, but yeah, it was a good time. Back to the game. Was close game. I'm sure Bills fans were just happy to have been in that game. And should have won. The thing on Diggs there, that might have been.
Yeah, the pass interference in the end zone that wasn't a pass interference.
But Josh Allen's a hell of a quarterback, dude. Hell of a quarterback.
Yeah, that's like I said, the second half is basically what I was predicting to happen throughout the course of the game, and I just figured that the Bills would basically have the last ball and get that victory. Plus, I had to mix some things up. I'm behind Tommy in the picks. I had to make a few changes, and this one didn't go my way, but a few others did. We'll talk about that.
I mean, even this week coming up, it's not looking. I mean, the Bills could drop 3 in a row.
That is true. 7-6. They're the 7th seed right now. They are actually on the fringe of not being in the playoff picture. There's a lot of teams right behind them that could easily take that spot.
Dolphins stock symbol up.
That's right.
Bills stock symbol down.
Who would have thought it? Patriots, number 1 seed. Oh, look at that.
Wow.
We got a Dolphin soundtrack. Oh, I love it. There we go. By the way, why did it take us until week 15 when one of the co-hosts is a Dolphins fan to have a Dolphin soundtrack? You know what? I'm not going to harp on that.
And you pay the guy.
And I pay the guy. Apparently, I need to pay him extra to get the Dolphin soundtrack. There you go. At least you know you're in the wrong man.
Anthony, sad trumpet if Brian gave you a Christmas bonus. Shotgun if he did not. Wait, other way around.
It's
Shotgun
not
if he
Christmas
did.
time yet.
Sad trumpet if he didn't. Oh, you cheap bastard.
It's only December 14th. Who said I'm not giving him a Christmas bonus? It's supposed to be a surprise, Will, but, way to let the cat out of the bag. Let's go on to another game. Dallas Cowboys 27, Washington Football Team 20. This game was not as close as that final score indicates. I don't know if you saw any highlights from this. Cowboys were dominating the entire game, and Washington.
What was that?
Was that a whip? I don't know. That sounded like a whip. Maybe we'll get it again, and you and I can determine what that sound was. Between these two teams, have no idea what that's supposed to represent. But Dallas dominating the whole game. Washington scores a late touchdown to get it to 27-14, and then rather than running the clock out, Dak is throwing the ball, throws a pick six. 27-20. Washington misses the extra point. And then Dallas ends up putting it away. Washington actually had a shot. And then there was a fumble on Kyle Allen, who had replaced Heineke, who was injured. Who, by the way, came out today. Heineke is looking like he will be okay to start. Any thoughts from this game? I did pick this another game where I picked Washington just to kind of. I was feeling the flow in a row, but Dallas just kind of controlled this game. Dak didn't have a great game, threw 2 interceptions, including that pick six. They didn't have Pollard in this. Zeke didn't do anything special. This was really more about the defense. They had a pick six of their own earlier in the game on a weird but cool kind of tipped pass return by a defensive lineman. Any thoughts on this game, Will?
I'm looking at the box score. The Cowboys have 27 points. Dak Prescott had 1 touchdown to Amari Cooper. Where's all the other touchdowns?
They might have only scored one other one. They had the pick six on defense. But it was Randy Gregory.
Is it field goals?
I think the rest might have been Greg Zuerlein field goals. The offense wasn't that good. The Washington defense has definitely stepped up over these past 5 weeks. This was more a case of the Dallas defense making plays, and that's kind of been their MO all season. They're not the best in terms of yardage allowed, but they have had a lot of opportunistic turnovers, defensive touchdowns, and that was the difference in this game. The crazy part was just how it ended.
I mean, I will say from a fantasy standpoint, I was very high on Antonio Gibson going into the day, especially with no McKissick, and he probably should have worked out, but I think they just got behind too early, too fast, and that was a very disappointing pick. That should have.
I think he still had 18 or 19 carries. They just didn't have. He couldn't get going. They didn't really have any running room.
He had 10 carries for 36 yards.
Oh, it was only 10. Okay. Maybe that was it.
But a third of his yards came on 1 carry.
Here's one other thing to take away from this game. Micah Parsons is otherworldly.
I heard that.
Otherworldly. Like, that guy should be in the Defensive Player of the Year talk, not just Defensive Rookie of the Year, Defensive Player of the Year. He's actually, I haven't checked this week, but as of last week, he was the highest graded pass rush grade on PFF of all defenders. Ahead of TJ Watt, ahead of Myles Garrett, not by much, but this is a rookie linebacker. They got a steal there. Let's move on to a game that was drafted for you, which, once again, we know you didn't watch any of the games except the one you were at, but let's hear some insight and see what you come up with. This is a pretty straightforward one. It's exactly as we predicted. Tennessee Titans 20, shutting out the Jacksonville Jaguars 0. We all picked Tennessee. Everybody picked Tennessee.
Wow.
No surprise there. That was epic.
I
don't know that sound drop is worthy for this freaking game. But here's what I want to know from you, Will, because you don't have to talk about this game. It went the way we expected. Let's hear your Urban Meyer thoughts, Mr. Gator. You gave Urban Meyer card buying advice one time. This place is a mess, even more than Houston, in my opinion.
So I will say this, is that ego wrecks people, right? I know this is not a college football podcast. However, ego...
As he beckons to Tebow, for those not watching on YouTube, our five watchers.
Not Tebow. Urban Meyer and Dan Mullen were on the national championship squad. Dan Mullen just got fired for ego at Florida. I mean, he could have... He's a brilliant coach, but he just could not fire people, could not move on, and made bad decisions. And for Urban Meyer, it's kind of different, but kind of the same, right? Like he has had success everywhere. Utah, Bowling Green, Ohio State, Florida, unmitigated success, right? And goes to the NFL and it just ain't working, right? He can't scheme it, like he can't strong will it. And I think we're going to see him get fired pretty soon. Is Brian drop off? Can you hear me, Anthony? Okay. I was done with what I was going to say, so I guess we just wait for him.
Is that hold music?
Bro, like, what did you do?
Nice. I got kicked off the internet. And you know what? We're live on YouTube, so we can't pretend like we're going to edit this out. The perils of doing a remote podcast.
Man, I talked all that crap about you while you were gone. I feel really bad now.
Well, you're on live on YouTube, so if you really did that, I'll be able to watch it later. Maybe the insiders for Urban Meyer decided I don't know. There's no way he has that.
Anthony, where was the "We are live on YouTube" sound effect? I don't appreciate that.
I should do I should give Will proper notice, especially because he has been prone to fly off the rails and use NSFW language. But yes, we're live on YouTube.
I totally took all my clothes off right then.
Okay. Well, you know what? Maybe that'll make us go viral and get some more attention to the show. All right. So back on track. What I was started to say was Tom Pelissero, NFL insider for NFL Network, came out with an insider scoop kind of article about how Urban treats his players like they're kids and doesn't treat them like adults. And he had a conference with his assistant coaches where he basically said, "I'm a winner. All you guys are losers. Prove to me that you're not losers. Show me who's won a national." I don't know. So that's almost my biggest concern. I agree with you, Will, about the scheming and all that, but if you don't have the culture, if you don't have the players behind you or the coaching staff, clearly leaks are coming out because nobody really sides with him. This is an absolute train wreck. And what's the over-under on how many games until Shad Khan actually fires him?
Well, I think the quote today was, "I'm going to do what's right for the city and for the players," right? And so, I mean, here's the thing. I don't know what you heard before, but ego will always be your downfall, and he has had unmitigated success everywhere he's ever been. And you get in the NFL, and you can't out-scheme the NFL unless you're Lamar Jackson and Harbaugh. So you can't out-scheme the NFL. You can't. You got to rely on assistant NFL coaches. So he can't put the team on his back, right? And you can't strong-arm discipline your team without first building trust. Right? Like Belichick has got that. Like if you come to New England, you just got to fall in line because
you know what you're signing up for.
Exactly.
Yeah.
When you come to the Jaguars, it's the same kind of thing that happened to Patricia in Detroit, right? Players will just revolt because it's the NFL, right? They can go somewhere else. They're gonna get signed, right? So, as much as I respect Urban Meyer's college accomplishments, I think he is going to be a very fat NFL failure. And I mean, if you're the Jaguars, what you cannot waste Trevor Lawrence, right? Like that guy. Yeah. So just pull it. I mean, he's been nothing but an embarrassment, right? He did the grindy pool situation, pocket pool. I just move on, man. I know he's worried about the optics, but the optics are worse if you don't fire him.
Right. The optics are already bad now. You can't avoid the optics at this point. Everyone thinks you're the laughingstock of the NFL because you are the laughingstock of the NFL. Do something about it. And like you said, Will, salvage your generational quarterback talent. Let's not give the Jaguars any more airtime. All right, moving on. Another game that wasn't close. Talking about the other train wreck of an organization. Seattle Seahawks 33, Houston Texans 13. We all picked Seattle. Game went exactly as planned. Rashad Penny had a nice breakout game. I feel like the NFL has been waiting for his breakout game for 4 years. Fantasy football players in particular. Was this it? Do we think Rashad Penny's a thing now? Or was this just you're playing the Texans. Will could go for 102 touchdowns against them?
I mean, yeah. Well, number one is the Texans, too. I mean, I obviously didn't watch this game. However,
and in fairness, you were not assigned this one. This one was assigned to Tommy. So you're.
I know, but what I mean is that, I don't know. I would need to see more from Penny. That Seattle run game is all committee based, and it kind of is all over the place anyway. So, I mean, Carson is pretty reliable, but
he's been out.
Yeah, right. But this is one game from Penny. So, I mean, DJ Dallas has also had good weeks where he kind of went crazy. Here.
Alex Collins had one or two games earlier this season where he put up some stats. Yeah, I don't want to spend too much time in this game because I don't think there's much we can take out of it. Davis Mills played in place of Tyrod Taylor. Looked decent in the beginning, and then they just weren't able to put up much points outside of that first drive. I believe they had the lead 7-0 at one point, but Seattle just kind of took it from there. Moving on. Don't need to linger on that game. So Las Vegas Raiders 9, Kansas City Chiefs 48. It was 8.5. Anthony came prepared today. I love it.
Extremely racist soundtrack.
Extremely racist, but as a Seminole fan, I kind of, obviously that holds a place in my heart. Oh, yes, and the Kansas City Chiefs do the tomahawk chop as well. So I did watch this game. This is one of the games that was drafted for me. Here's an interesting stat. I'm going to have a few nuggets for this game, particular between the Chiefs and the Raiders. The Chiefs have won by 20 or more points in 2 games this season. Will, name both opponents.
The Raiders.
The Raiders.
Wow.
Anthony, this might be the most on point you've ever been with the sound drops. I love it. Keep it up. So we talked the first time.
Josh Gordon have a touchdown?
Josh Gordon it was like a 1 yard touchdown. They threw him a touchdown at the 1 yard line. It was just like Mahomes took it, immediately slung it directly to Gordon, and he got his first NFL touchdown since week 1 of 2019.
Did he like take the ball and pretend to like light it and smoke it?
Pretend? Who said anything about pretend? No, it was nice. I think it was just a gimme touchdown. That nothing the Raiders could do could stop the Chiefs. I mentioned before the last time Kansas City played the Raiders that a lot of what has plagued the Kansas City offense this year has been teams playing an exorbitantly high amount of two safety shells where they keep two safeties high. They switch up the coverages between either two high man, cover 2, cover 4, cover 6. Defenses that are designed very much to severely limit deep plays, shot plays, deep balls like the ones that Tyreek Hill is known for, and keep everything in front of you and force the Chiefs' offensive Mahomes to dink and dunk and play patient ball. The Raiders, over 80% of the time throughout the season, have played a single high safety. Rather than adjust in the first game, they stuck to that principle and got absolutely decimated. So what did they do this time? They stick to the principle again, and surprise, surprise, get absolutely decimated. It's a long way of saying I don't think this necessarily gives us any intel about the Chiefs, because the Raiders are the only team they've been able to do this against, and the Raiders are playing the defense that you're not supposed to play against Kansas City. It just seemed like an obvious recipe for success for Kansas City. What are your thoughts knowing the score and the stats of this game?
Well, I called this because I tell you what my DFS selections were, and I picked the flyer on the which I didn't think was a flyer. I thought a severely underpriced KC defense. And I just looked at my lineup right like 5 minutes after like it locked, and I was like, I just wanted to see the percentages that everybody had, because I didn't have very many people going in the early window. And I look, and I had like 22 points, and I was like, what the hell was that? And I looked down, and I had like a defensive KC touchdown, and immediately felt like the smartest man alive.
That was the first play of the Raiders' offense. Very first play, Josh Jacobs fumbles the ball, scoop and score, Chiefs go up. From there, it was just gone.
And I also picked Hunter Renfrow because...
As did I.
I mean, how could you not? It was a very obvious play. So, yeah, I mean, everybody knows the Chiefs, own the Raiders, and other than Hunter Renfrow and who's the other guy, Waller,
who was out. Yep.
Yeah, I'm not. The Chiefs have not, even with this, like to your point, this 48-9 win. I'm not convinced they're back. Right, like they won this game. Like Clyde Edwards-Helaire had 2 touchdowns. Whoever Derek Gore is, had a touchdown.
The backup running back, not related to Frank. A lot of people ask that. Not related to Frank, but he is the backup running back. I guess the backup to the backup, because you got Clyde Edwards-Helaire, and then you've got Darrell Williams, and then Derek Gore.
I mean, Kelsey is put up a stinker stat line. Tyreek Hill, just 4 catches. They probably didn't have to do much, so. I don't know. I don't think it says anything about the Chiefs either. Right?
I think they had 3 or 4 turnovers. There was Derek Carr definitely threw a few interceptions. It was easy. It was just a cakewalk for the Chiefs. The one boost to them is maybe this gives them a little bit of a confidence, like get their swagger back. But once a defense actually goes back to playing those 2 high shells that have given Mahomes and the Chiefs trouble all year, I don't see this happening against other opponents. The Raiders, man, after a hot start, now 6-7 and just tumbling. They lost Gruden. They lost Ruggs. They've lost players to injury. Darren Waller's been in and out of the lineup. Still getting a decent pass rush, but their secondary's had issues. They can't really stop the run. Their offensive line, as we predicted in the offseason, has been dreadful. Not much of a running game. Hunter Renfrow is pretty much the only bright spot right now. And that's because he gets open and catches the ball. Doesn't go for a lot unless he gets 13 catches like he did in this game. So one final fun fact I'll drop on you for this game. The Chiefs have scored 299 points against the Raiders since 2018. That is the most by any one team versus any opponent during that span. So if there's one thing you can count on, it's that the Chiefs are going to score a ton of points against the Raiders. All right, moving on. Next, we've got the New Orleans Saints 30, New York Jets 9. We all picked the Saints. The ending was obvious. It was actually closer than this. Not that Zach Wilson played great, but the Saints offense was sputtering at times. Kamara looked good. Taysom Hill didn't do much until he busted one long rushing touchdown later, ended up having a good fantasy day. Also, not a lot to glean from this. This one was assigned to you, Will, so let's get your thoughts on this.
I mean, as predicted, right? Like, the Saints just easy win against the hapless New York Jets. And I very much, I knew exactly going into this game that the leading rusher on the day for New York would be Zach Wilson with 4 carries for 33 yards.
Ouch. They did have injuries. Tevin Coleman, Michael Carter, both not playing in this game. They had to go with Ty Johnson and some guy named Austin Walter. I don't think he really did much, though.
Michael Pirine.
And Michael Pirine, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think there's a lot to talk about this game, right? Like, we got the Taysom Hill-led Saints versus the crappy New York Jets. Moving on. I will say a quick plug for my Hires and Flyers. Nearly all of them hit last week. I didn't take my own advice on some of them, or else my lineup would have been even better. Definitely called Taysom Hill. What a great value play against the Jets. Okay, moving on. Atlanta Falcons 29, Carolina Panthers 21. I'm the only one to pick Atlanta because you picked along with Vegas. Carolina was favored. That wasn't very intimidating Falcons side, but we'll take it. We'll take whatever sound drop we can get. This was a game that Atlanta was in control the whole game. Not that they dominated. I think this is more the Falcons' defense, or maybe it's the Panthers' offense. They lost their offensive coordinator, Joe Brader, who was fired last week by Matt Rule. Cam didn't look great at all. He actually got benched a couple times for P.J. Walker, who subsequently came in and threw an interception himself. No CMC, I think, might be the biggest issue here. And this offense, Chuba Hubbard has shown flashes, but he's no Christian McCaffrey. This offense has not really been able to function since that early 3-game winning streak to start the season. The defense is still playing pretty well, but not good enough to carry this offense. Any insight here? Not really. I mean, like, everybody knows who the Falcons are, right? Like, I mean, just a pieced together offense at this, like, that you can't recover from losing both Julio and Calvin Ridley. I mean, Corduroy has tried.
Our boy Corduroy scored another touchdown.
Had a great game. Like, I mean, dude, like, I don't know if there's an award that can be given to him for this year, but he should get it, right? Like, most valuable, like, Swiss Army knife.
Most valuable guy in his 30s who is playing on like his 4th or 5th team that finally finds a role in his legitimate.
Don't ever let him and Ryan Fitzpatrick team up, because it would just be ridiculous. And then the Panthers, I mean, Cam Newton is still very bad, right? Like he's just bad.
Speaking of that, here's the fun fact, the nugget I'll leave to everyone, and then we'll move on. Cam Newton has lost 11 straight starts for the Panthers. Obviously, that dates back to his previous tenure before he was released. His last win, Week 9, 2018, versus the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So he has not won a start for the Carolina Panthers in 3 years.
I would like you to look at the box score and tell me how to pronounce the leading defensive player for the Falcons. I posted his name in chat.
Foyosade Oluoken?
Sure.
Sure. We're going to go with that.
That's fun. That is a fun name.
All right, moving on. The Falcons, from a playoff implication, not that I think they'll make it, but technically this keeps them alive. They're only 1 game out of the 7 seed, whereas at 6 and 7, where the Panthers are just falling deeper into their hole. They have a lot of questions to answer from quarterback on down coming into the offseason. Baltimore Ravens 22, Cleveland Browns 24. Browns favored by.
Wow.
All right, the dog pound. I love it. So the Browns were actually another one of those games where they had a much bigger lead than this throughout the game, and they just let the Ravens just claw their way back in. Tyler Huntley was the starter. Lamar went down with actually a pretty bad ankle twist, which probably should have been a roughing the passer. Wasn't called. He left the game, didn't come back in. It said that it looks like he's on track to play this coming week, week 15. Myles Garrett, with his first ever defensive touchdown, got a strip sack. He was an absolute game changer. The Browns looked good on offense to start the game, but didn't score a single point in the second half, but still get the win. I picked Cleveland. Technically, you picked Cleveland, Will, because you picked the favorites, but I have a feeling you would have picked the Ravens if we were actually picking this game.
I wish you would have more faith in me.
Are you just going to go with the Vegas favorites when we do the flavor of the week, or are you actually going to make picks?
I'm not going to
We shall see.
You change your strategy.
Okay.
I mean, Mark Andrews had a day. Rashad Bateman came into his own also, 7 for 103. So, I mean, Baker Mayfield is still pretty bad, right? Like we can all agree.
He's the biggest problem on this offense. They've got a solid offensive line. They've had injuries, but Baker is the thing that I didn't see coming because he was so good last year. And I picked the Browns to win the Super Bowl, but Baker just being so erratic, and maybe it's due to injury, that was the one thing I didn't see coming.
Austin Hooper came out and kind of talked about his locker room presence, but
in what way? I didn't see that quote. What did he say?
Basically just said that the team values him as a leader and he fights through a lot and blah 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 blah. Nobody cares. Yeah, I mean, what's Cleveland 7-6? What's their standing? I mean, they can't be in a very good spot. I mean, they're gonna have to start pulling something.
I think that might have put them in. Let me see what the NFL playoff standings. This is great podcasting. Should have this ready to go, but we're just gonna look it up on the spot. All right, playoff picture in the AFC is. No, that's the standings. That's not what I wanted to see. Here we go. Updated playoff picture. Good thing we're live and we're just roaming the internet as our two people are watching. Okay. So currently AFC, the Browns are the first team out at 7-6, but they have the same records as the Colts and the Bills, who are also both 7-6. Look at the Colts clawing their way back in.
That's a scary team, dude.
I predicted they would win the division. I think that's a long shot at this point, just because the Titans beat them twice. But I've been a fan of the Colts since the offseason, been watching Hard Knocks, even more of a fan of Indy now. So the Ravens are still in first in the AFC North at 8-5, but Browns just won. The Bengals also 7-6. Steelers 6-1, but I think they're falling out. So the Browns, one game out of the division and one game out of the wild card at the moment. All right, let's keep any more, or let's keep the party rolling.
No, I'll just say that, and this is the thing I was just thinking about, is it's so like injuries suck. Like we never really get to see a team. Rarely do we get to see the actual team, right? Like we always get to see like some weird conglomeration of what is supposed to be the starting roster for that team, right? Like the way to beat the Ravens right now is to throw on them, right? So you think about going into next week with Lamar, like the Packers are just going to smoke the Ravens next week, right? Like they're going to either roll out a gimpy Lamar, or even if they rolled out a healthy Lamar, Aaron Rodgers is just going to carve the shit out of him, right? So
yeah, no Marlon Humphrey, no Marcus Peters.
But that shouldn't be the case. So it's crazy that like it's unfortunate that the NFL is really just about staying healthy and having like good depth, because you see so many teams that lose one key piece here and there, especially in a COVID year where anything can happen. So anyway, enough about that. Moving on
to the afternoon games. Los Angeles Chargers absolutely dominated the New York Giants 37-21 at home in SoFi. This was an easy game. Everybody picked LA across the board. Justin Herbert made some just phenomenal throws. There was a touchdown pass to Jalen Guyton where he threw the ball from like his own 35 and hit right at the start of the end zone, right on the money. It was insane. Herbert, absolutely, from a talent standpoint, one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL already in year 2. The pass rush looked good again. Joey Bosa making some plays, high PFF pass rush grade this week, similar to his brother Nick. We'll get to that game in a few minutes. Not a lot to glean on this. Mike Glennon got another start. It looks like Daniel Jones still might miss another week, so we might get the Mike Glennon show again. This Giants team we've seen reports that Joe Judge is safe, but I wouldn't be surprised if we see some other changes. Obviously, they fired their offensive coordinator, Jason Garrett, a few weeks back. Anything to take out of this game? A lot of obvious results this week, I felt.
Yeah, I mean, yes.
This was Tommy's game, or else I would have a fun fact ready. So,
nope. I mean, the Giants are bad, and the Chargers are pretty good when they can get it together, right? Like, I mean, I think everybody was. There was a question mark surrounding Guyton, right? Like, could he really fill in for Keenan Allen? And like, if you take away that touchdown, the answer is he would have had a pretty mediocre day, right? Mac Williams did pretty well. Austin Eckler did great. So
they also didn't need him to do well. Josh Palmer scored a touchdown. Saw Jared Cook had a few catches.
Yeah,
like they didn't need a Keenan Allen stand-in, and if nothing else, that's been a little bit of a security blanket for Joe Lombardi and that offense, and they haven't pushed the ball downfield enough. So not having kind of that Keenan Allen type, I'd love to see more of this type of Chargers where they're just pushing the ball downfield. It's exciting. We haven't had a lot of that this year with Mahomes and the Chiefs offense being stifled. So no need to spend any more time on that. The Giants just turning into one of the worst teams in the NFL. We'll see the future of Daniel Jones and the rest of that team as we look into the offseason. Denver Broncos 38. Detroit Lions, fresh off their first victory, 10. Wah, wah.
No.
Okay. Yeah. He doesn't want to acknowledge his absolutely devastating loss. Broncos, Melvin Gordon with 100 yards. Javonte Williams, between the two of them, had nearly 200 yards rushing. I think Teddy only threw 20-something passes in this game. Vic Fangio, fever dream. Defense plays great, and they could just run the ball all day. We all picked Denver. Will, this was assigned to you, so let's get some random insight from you.
Yeah, my random insight is, wouldn't it have been amazing if the Dolphins could have drafted Javonte Williams?
I wanted it.
He's really good.
It was close.
He's really good. And then
I'm not sure they would have, actually. And Javon Holland, by the way, has been one of the best safeties in the NFL this year, not just as a rookie. So they did pretty well with that second-round draft pick.
I don't think there's a lot to say about this game. Like, the Broncos are not that good, and the Lions are pretty bad, right? Like, if this was anybody else, the Broncos would have not had 3 rushing touchdowns on the day, right? Like, I just think this is a data point where you go, got it, and you move on.
For the most part, I feel like this week there wasn't a lot of super exciting football, with exception to the 2 late afternoon overtime games, Tampa Bay, Buffalo, and the game we're about to talk about, San Francisco, Cincinnati. San Francisco 49ers, 26, Cincinnati Bengals, 23. This was a game where San Francisco was in control, but hats off to Joe Burrow, for keeping the Bengals in this. Not a lot to glean from this. Both teams fighting for playoff spots. Both teams technically I think the Bengals are now out of playoff. I mean, if you're looking at the actual picture, they're at 7-6. They have the same record as the Browns, so they're kind of next team up. San Francisco still holding on to, I believe it's the number 6 seed at this point. George Kittle is an absolute monster.
He's gone off in the past 2 weeks.
Absolutely unstoppable. He made a catch late in the game that helped. It was either on the game, I think it was the game tying drive, or it was at the end of regulation. They ended up missing the field goal, where he just does this outstretched fingertip catching, just leaning back, just insane catch. So he's got the ball skills. He's got the yard after catch skills. Last week he had over 100 yards after the catch. This week, just absolutely dominating. I feel like the Bengals are in good hands with Joe Burrow. That's what I'll take away from the Cincinnati side. T. Higgins had another good showing. Jamar Chase had a bad drop early. Where's the 49ers sound drop? I don't know what that would be, but... the foghorn. Nice. I've heard that a few times this year going to games.
Here's the thing. What happened to Tyler Boyd? He has been... Hey, check this out. He's been chased out of the offense.
I'll give you points for that one.
Side flick. No, but For real,
Nice.
he was a monster. And like T. Higgins was always like the red zone target, but like now it's just kind of completely flipped. I mean, Joe Mixon is always as dominant as he's ever gonna be, but T. Higgins is still eating, right? Like T. Higgins is really good,
Yeah.
and Chase is also really good. So this Bengals team, man, you cannot sleep on that team. The defense is much improved this year. They're not wonderful, but they're much improved. It's just I don't know what piece the Bengals are missing to put it together, but
This certainly could have gone a number of ways. Jimmy G actually threw what would have been a easy pick six for Jesse Bates and the Bengals, and he dropped it late in that fourth quarter. So this was essentially a coin flip game. Two very evenly matched teams, and San Francisco just ended up getting the best of them with that Ayuk touchdown. So fun facts from this game. First of all, a streak ends. Joe Mixon had no touchdowns for the first time since week 3. A 9-game touchdown streak. It was the longest by a running back in Cincinnati history, broken in this game. And here's some Jimmy G love. Has a 90-plus passer rating in 7 straight games. The only Hall of Fame Steve Young, with 15 straight from 94 to 95, has a longer such streak among San Francisco quarterbacks since 1950. So that apparently includes Montana.
don't take a look. Don't take a look at the DFS section.
Okay.
You won't have seen my my picks, but yeah. Let's.
Well, let's go ahead and wrap it up with the two other primetime games so we can get to our DFS hires. Sunday Night Football. Green Bay Packers 45, Chicago Bears 30. The Bears actually...
Wow.
Nice. He did his homework. I think he's got all the sound drops ready. So Green Bay actually had some splash plays in this that not only kept them in it, they had a 10-point lead at one point in the second quarter. Jakeem Grant, former Dolphin, 97-yard punt return, 46-something yard screen touchdown, and Damiere Byrd, former Patriot, with a long 50-something yard touchdown. Those were the splash plays orchestrated by Fields in that Bears offense. It wasn't enough. They couldn't stop Rodgers. The Packers were moving the ball at will. 45 points on what, only a few years ago was one of the best defenses in the NFL. We all picked the Packers. It might have started fun for the Bears, but ended exactly as we felt. Any thoughts here?
Yeah, my thought is if the Green Bay Packers somehow lose Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams, they will not win a game next year. Not one. Not one game. Those two.
0-17. Okay.
Those two are incredible, dude. Incredible. And,
Not in love with Jordan Love, huh?
I mean, they're going to be the Lions. You're going to have a backup quarterback throwing to nobodies, right? Like, Alan Lazard is not your number one wide receiver. Neither is Valdez Scantling, right? So, anyway, we'll see. But I don't know, man. It was an overall, a good game for the Bears, but you can score on Green Bay, so not enough. I don't know how Matt Nagy still has a job.
The Bears organization has never fired a coach mid-season. I'm guessing that's the reason, and that I would be shocked if he still has a job when we get to the offseason. Yeah. Black Monday, yeah, he could be one of the first names that's let go.
Even though he's white.
Even though he's why you gotta race just you can't escape it. You just gotta throw it in there.
I'm just saying he's gonna make a splash.
That is an astute observation. All right. And finally, Monday Night Football. Exciting game. Los Angeles Rams 30. Arizona Cardinals 23. The Cardinals... Whose house? Rams house.
Wow.
I love it. So the Cardinals were favored in this, Will, so you got this one wrong. I was the only one to pick LA, and this pick helped me. I don't really count yours because you threw in Vegas picks, but I actually beat Tommy by one. We'll go into that a little bit more in detail on the flavor of the week. I just felt like this was a game where the Rams were coming off. They got Jacksonville, which I know Jacksonville's terrible, but it's one of those confidence boosters. They absolutely trounced Jacksonville in the second half. They're feeling good. They go into Arizona. Kyler Murray, with only his second game back after those injuries, after being off for 4 straight weeks, 1 bye in 3 games, just felt like this was the game where the Rams were going to come in and really take control, and they did. They had the lead for nearly in the entire game. Arizona tried to make a run at the end. Kyler had a couple interceptions in this, didn't throw any touchdowns, I believe. I don't have the stats in front of me.
No, I didn't.
But the Cardinals dropped down to the third seed after having the previous best record in the NFL. The Rams now have a shot at the NFC West after winning this game. Makes it exciting. This was definitely one of the more entertaining games, I would say, even though we didn't see any touchdowns from Kyler.
I feel like we're watching, like, obviously, same division, so it's not gonna be the championship game. However, I feel like one of these two teams is gonna go to the Super Bowl, right? Like,
oh wow,
can we? I mean, can
you
we
like them
agree?
better than Green Bay because Green Bay beat Arizona.
There's no way, dude. There's no Green Bay may go, but they're gonna lose.
Also, I just realized your Bucks are just not. Okay, I like it.
I mean, I don't know, dude. Like, these two teams to me are the most complete, right? Like, I hope the Bucks go, right? I hope it's Bills, not Bills, Bill Belichick versus Tom Brady in the Super Bowl. And if Tom wins that, he's got to retire, right? He's got to.
You really think there's no way he goes out after winning a Super Bowl?
He's going to try to win Belichick?
He's going to try to win a third in a row. He's just going to.
I guess.
He's too competitive.
I hope. But I don't know, man. These two seem like the best teams to me. The Bucks, I feel like, could fall apart at any moment just because I'm probably a fan. But what is wrong? Like, I mean, obviously Arizona is 10-3, like, but I just don't feel like Kyler's playing like Kyler. I don't feel like DeAndre is playing like DeAndre, right? Like, there's something amiss there. Like, Connor,
I think we saw last year, once Murray got injured, this was a different Cardinals team, and I wonder if we're seeing that a little bit here. They beat the Bears last week, but Kyler actually fumbled the ball twice. They just happened to recover both of them. This one, he doesn't throw any touchdowns, throws a couple interceptions instead. It's whether you call it rust, whether you call it a physical limitations that they're trying to get back from, being out of that rhythm, that NFL rhythm, that practice rhythm. This could be a similar situation as we saw last year, where Arizona's just not able to recapture that magic, that dominance that they had to start the season.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll see. We'll see as it plays on. I mean, COVID could change things. COVID right now, I feel like, is going to change the whole course of the season.
COVID's fielding its own roster, by the way.
I know.
Something like 60-something players in the last 2 days alone.
I think it's 75. I just saw.
Jeez.
It's up to 75 now.
They got enough for an off-season program. They've got their 53. They've got their training camp bodies. That's insane. ODB. We were just talking about the Rams.
Old dirty bastard.
Old dirty bastard who plays for the Rams, number 3. Yeah.
OBJ.
OBJ, ODB he's got multiple nicknames. Mr. Beckham Jr.
Somebody will probably call him Old Dirty Bastard one
So
day.
somebody's called him ODB. You've honestly, you've never heard him referred to as ODB before.
No, I really
Okay.
haven't.
Well, you got your head in the sand. Let's take a quick look at the playoff picture. We're just going to run down. We don't need any particular insight, and then we'll jump over to our DFS section. So first seed in the AFC, we got the Patriots, Titans, Chiefs. All teams are 9-4. The Patriots are technically the 1 seed due to tiebreakers, but all teams at 9-4. Ravens, the 4 seed at 8-5, but as we mentioned, they haven't looked great lately. They've got a lot of injuries on both sides of the ball. Their offense hasn't looked great. They're only 1 game ahead of the Browns and the Bengals. Chargers at 8-5. I feel like they're surging at the right time. They play the Chiefs this week. They beat the Chiefs earlier in the season, so that could easily switch places there. Colts at 7-6, they're surging at the right time, and Bills at 7-6. And the first 3 out: Browns, Bengals, and Broncos. A few B teams. All right, looking at the NFC, the only teams that are eliminated, by the way, officially are Jets, Texans, and Jaguars in the AFC. In the NFC, the Packers are now the 1 seed after the Cardinals lost. The Buccaneers are 2, and the Cardinals are 3. All 3 teams are 10-3. The Cowboys lead the NFC East, so they're at the 4 seed at 9-4. The Rams, the first wild card at 9-4, but they're only 1 game back of the Cardinals for the NFC West right now. The 49ers at 7-6 at the 6th seed, and Washington, even with their loss, is at 6-7 and tied into that 7 seed. They play the Eagles this week. Tommy not on, but the Eagles at 6-7, Washington 6-7 could be fighting for that 7 seed. The Vikings also at 6-7, and so are the Falcons and the Saints. There's just a bunch of teams that are technically tied with that 7 seed. Interested to see how that plays out. Whew. All right. Let's go ahead and move on to our DFS Hires and Flyers presented by DraftKings. Quick reminder of the segment. Actually, before we get to the segment, football fans, I'm sure we all love an action-packed, high-scoring NFL game, but with the latest no-brainer from DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL, you'll be a winner once a single point is scored. New customers who bet just $1 on any team to score can win $100 in free bets. It's that simple. If Sportsbook isn't available in your state yet, you can still get in on the NFL action. Everyone can play for huge cash prizes all season long with DraftKings daily fantasy sports contests. DraftKings is giving all new customers a free shot at millions of dollars in total prizes with their first deposit. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Use promo code TPPN. Bet $1 on any team just to score and win $100 in free bets. If they score, you score with promo code TPPN this week at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. Must be 21 or older, New Jersey, Indiana, or Pennsylvania only. New customers only. Minimum $5 deposit and one wager required. One per customer. Restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or call Will Southern. Are you primed to do some hires and flyers? After being off. All right. Quick recap if you have never heard this segment before. Will and I, using DraftKings prices, will give our hires, our players that are higher priced that we feel have a good matchup, a good opportunity to produce and justify that high price, and our flyers, lower priced players, due to the opportunity they have, due to the matchup, we feel that they're going to definitely get you a good return at all positions in the starting lineup for DraftKings. So we're going to start it with quarterback. We always kind of mix it up. Do you want to do hire, flyer, or do you want me to do both? We'll start with hires, and I'll jump to you. So my hire for the week, pretty simple. You mentioned it earlier. Quarterback Aaron Rodgers, 7,500 versus the Ravens, already averaging 22.6 points per game, but especially over the last few weeks. The last 3 games, he's averaging 32.8. This Packers offense is absolutely rolling. And the Ravens, those injuries Will mentioned earlier, are 31st right now in total passing yards allowed per game, but they're also first in rush yards allowed. So this is a team kind of like the Bucs that is very susceptible to the pass game and very good, at least to this point, at stopping the run game. So it seems like a funnel and easy opportunity for Aaron Rodgers to go out there and do some damage. At 7,500, I think he's about the 4th highest priced quarterback here. Seems like an easy value to me.
Yeah, I mean, I also agree. I just went with a different pick because I didn't want to go with your same pick. And again, a tournament play, especially considering how he's playing, because these could all be rushing touchdowns. But Kyler Murray versus Detroit. I mean, he still had 23 points against the Rams, even in that week. He had 30 against Chicago. Really, he's only had one kind of down, 1 or 2 down fantasy games on the year. And his floor is pretty much 20 points. So, I mean, the Lions are just bad. Like, Kyler Murray actually might sit the entire second half. But I think that 7,900, you could also go there. The thing that worries me a little about Aaron Rodgers is I really want to see, like, is he okay, right? He said his foot got worse during the game. His foot hadn't really slowed him down at all.
Hasn't slowed him down. He's playing better since he hurt his toe, since he got COVID toe.
Yeah, I mean, but I agree that you probably have that there. I also agree with who you're about to talk about for your flyer. So I'll give you, I think that you might have the flyer of the week. So let me give you a different one. And we talked about it before. I'm high on the San Francisco offense just across the board this week. I mean, Atlanta's really bad, and San Francisco is actually playing pretty well. So if you want a tournament flyer, 5,800 at home versus Atlanta, you can take. I spelled his name completely right, by the way, in the show notes.
Garrel Polo, like a polo shirt.
You can take Gary Polo.
Gary Polo.
Gary Polo versus the Falcons and do much worse. But I think that you nailed the flyer pick, I think, on this week.
I appreciate your vote of confidence, especially with who this player plays for. Tua Tagovailoa, quarterback for the Miami Dolphins, only 5,700, going up against the New York Jets. Number of options really line up to Tua being a really good value play. I will absolutely be putting him in some lineups this week. He's a low ceiling value play. This is not he hasn't had any 30-point games this season, but when you factor in a few things, first of all, the Jets are allowing the 27th most passing yards per game and are 32nd in total points allowed. So they are the worst team in the NFL as far as allowing points. So teams are going to score against them. All 3 Miami running backs have tested positive for COVID. Now, Miami was on a bye this week, so it's not like they missed any game time. But either, 1, they're in jeopardy of missing next week, or 2, they will have just come back from an illness that we've seen other players take a week or 2 to kind of recover from. And the Dolphins just aren't a run-first team. They're an RPO team, a run-pass option. They like those quick, short passes, get the ball to their playmakers. And Tua is going to have the pass attempts. He has 30 or more pass attempts in 6 of his last 7 games. That includes 5 wins in a row. This Dolphins team is playing with confidence. They're going to be passing the ball because the Jets suck and because the running backs are all sick with COVID. It just seems to really line up at 5,700. Even if he only gets you like 17, 18 points, you're going to justify that price, and you can use that extra budget for other players.
Running back, let me start off. I will say this. Play whatever San Francisco running back is the primary one against Atlanta. I think that you should. If it's Mitchell at 6,200, I like that. If it's Jeff Wilson at way cheaper, I like that. But if you don't want to do that, Connor at 6,400 versus Detroit, I almost guarantee you he will get 2 touchdowns on that game.
Although it's I haven't seen reports that come out since, but he was due to have an MRI today. He actually injured his foot on the last play of the game against the Rams. So Chase Edmonds is actually trending like he's going to come back. So it's something to keep an eye on. Edmonds would probably still be a good play if Connor is not able to go.
Right, and it's also bodes the case for Murray as the quarterback play. So, but I do like the San Francisco running backs, and then I also think you could look at whatever running back comes back for the Rams, like Henderson's price point for Seattle. I don't think that's going to be a split backfield if Henderson comes back. I think they're going to put Sony Michel rightfully back on the bench where he belongs, and you get a lot of value there.
And 5,900 is the price for Henderson. So just our unofficial threshold is 6,000. He falls just into the flyer section. So my running backs, I haven't been putting him on recently. I put him on a lot earlier. I feel like he's not a secret anymore. But my boy Cordero Patterson, only 6,900. He is the current seventh running back as far as scores, fantasy points scored in most formats for the season. He's averaging 18.2 points per game, and he's priced under 7,000. Going up against the 49ers, a team that is more vulnerable against the run than the pass. It really doesn't matter because he'll get 4 or 5 targets a game. This is a guy who's originally a wide receiver who they've put at running back, clearly has outproduced Mike Davis, but also has a pass game. At that price, it just seems like I'm going to put him in most of my lineups. And the Falcons are going to need to neutralize Nick Bosa and that San Francisco pass rush by utilizing our boy Corduroy. So I really like him, especially at that price. And my flyer, I'm not a fan of the Jags. And if there's a caveat here, it's that that organization is such a mess. I'm hoping that
a caveat?
Caveat.
Caveat?
Caveat?
A caveat?
Caveat.
What
How do you pronounce it? You ask, every time I use that word, you say exactly that phrase.
How do you pronounce caveat?
Caveat. Caveat? No, that's not right. Google, you're wrong. Okay. So my caveat is that keep in mind that the Jags are a mess. They're an absolute mess. The locker room's in turmoil. The coaches are in turmoil. There's leaks coming out. Urban Meyer's going to get fired maybe as early as this week. Did you just play the pronunciation?
I sure did. It says caveat.
Caveat. That's what I said.
No, it is not.
Isn't it?
No.
Okay. All right. Whatever. But here's why I like James Robinson as a play this week. There's a few reasons. First of all, he's only 5,700. This is a guy who was a top 10 quarterback. I believe he finished at running back. I believe he finished at running back 7 or 8 last year. 5,700 going up against the Houston Texans. Texans are dead last in rushing yards allowed and 31st in points allowed, ahead of only the Jets, who we just mentioned. In the 6 games this year, and once again, this doesn't mean that Herb will do this or Darren Bevel will do this, but when James Robinson has had at least 15 touches, not 20, not 25, 15 touches, he has averaged over 20 points per game. That is 6 games where they've done that this year. Just give James Robinson the rock. He is far and away your most talented offensive player. The fact that you're playing the Texans with an awful rush defense, the fact that Robinson is only priced at 5,700, it's a chance. You know, the floor is pretty low lately with that Jacksonville offense, but there's also a decent chance that he could pay off if the Jags just give him the damn ball.
It's a complete tournament pick.
Yeah.
Like, you're not playing that in cash.
Definitely not a cash play, even if he's playing the Texans, just because
especially when Henderson is 5,900 if he comes back from COVID versus Seattle. And
right.
Yeah, exactly. So
this is, my thinking, this is a running back that when he's at his height should be priced in the upper 6s, or was probably even priced in the low 7s last year. So it's just 5,700 next to James Robinson's name. It's hard to pass on that.
So I'm going to go first because you just talked a lot. Wide receivers, I got 2 hires, and I just watched the week. Kupp and Adams. I mean, I feel like from who is more of a lock to have a pretty good game is probably Devontae. Pending Rodgers news. However, like, Kupp just continues to dominate. He just had a 34-point week against Arizona. The thing that kind of pulls me off, is nothing. Actually, I was going to say something else, but is nothing. Play Cooper Kupp, he's going to be really good, or play Devontae Adams, or hell, play Samuel at 8,200. They're $800 away from each other. Take your pick on whoever fits your lineup and stack this week. If you're playing Rodgers, pair him with Adams, which is the obvious pairing. And then my flyer is better than your flyer. Let's go all the way to the bottom. $4,300 versus the Jets. Devontae Parker, the forgotten man in Miami. I don't think Will Fuller's back, right?
No, still not back.
So if you look at Devontae Parker's weeks, right, his splits, I was actually on him last week. His last 3 weeks, 11 points, 16.5 points, and 18 points. So $4,300 in what should be a Tua pass heavy week. You could go much, much worse than picking Devontae Parker.
So I was close to picking Adams as my hire. I just think 100% what you said. Like, this is stack Rodgers, stack Devontae Adams against that Baltimore secondary. I think that's just, plug and play. But I wanted to mix it up a little bit. I was looking for around at the different prices, and I just came across another Dolphins receiver, Jalen Waddle, 6,600, which is still, I think, priced very low for the production and the volume that he's been getting against the Jets. We're stacking him with Tua here. He has 8 or more receptions in 4 of the last 5 games. That's not targets, that's catches. 8 or more catches in 4 of the last 5 games. He is 10th in the entire NFL in total targets. This is a rookie wide receiver, 10th in the NFL. You've got the poor Jets secondary and all the Miami's questionable run game. We mentioned it earlier. Their entire running back room is out with COVID right now. It just lines up really well. It could be a Parker week. It's almost certainly Waddle's going to get his opportunities. He just does. That's Tua targets him at an absurd rate. His average targets over the last 5 games is something like 9 or 10. He's had games where he's had 13 catches earlier in the year. And as he did 2 weeks ago, he's prone to take one and absolutely go off with that speed. So love him as a hire, who's only 6,600. He's that's a low priced hire. Might be one of the lowest I've ever given. As my flyer, I do like, obviously, Devontae. I'm loving this Dolphins-Jet matchup. I'm just loving that the Dolphins are on a 5-game winning streak, and we still have the Jets to play next, so we're going to keep that going. But I wanted to pick another stack with Rodgers, so I picked MVS, Marquez Valdez-Scantling, only 4,900 against the Ravens. Definitely more of a tournament play because he has those weeks where he'll only get one catch for 30 yards, and you don't really get the value back. But he has been seeing more attention from Rodgers lately. He's averaging 8 targets per game over his last 3 games. As we mentioned earlier, the Ravens' weakness is clearly in the secondary due to the injury to Marlon Humphreys, and they lost Marcus Peters to start the season. And they have a really good run defense. So it's just lining up for this to be a big Rodgers game, probably a big Devontae Adams game. You play a player like Marquez Valdez-Scantling at 4,900, hoping he just catches like a long bomb and gets a touchdown for you. You want to start the tight ends off since I talk a lot, according to you?
No, because my tight end picks.
I agree. LOL. I just read your show notes. Okay. All right. So
those are the picks.
Those are the picks.
Those are the 2 picks. So
I did look at one other pick for the Flyer, so I'll mention that after I do my pick. So
you could go a few ways, but you shouldn't.
Okay.
So I think.
Although if we'll get to the Dolphins play. Not all of these Dolphins pass catchers are somebody's.
Well, I'm gonna take the obvious hire, and it's Kittle against the
Okay.
Falcons. I mean, find the money. Find the money. Play George Kittle against the Falcons.
Yeah.
Period.
7,500. He has averaged almost 40 points over each of the last 2 games. That's not 40 points dropping down to a 20, but no, he has scored like 79.5 points over the past 2 weeks, averaging 11 catches, 1.5 touchdowns, 13.5 targets over these last 2 games. Like Jimmy G is just peppering him. Now, part of that has been because Deebo Samuel was injured. He was out 2 weeks ago, and this past week, clearly they wanted to ease him in, although he still got a rushing touchdown. Deebo is just a monster this game. But Kittle is the guy. San Francisco is in the playoffs right now. Jimmy G is playing really, really efficient and well, and part of the reason is he's just throwing to Kittle 13 times a game. And Falcons defense equals bad. We'll keep it that simple. So, my Flyer, as Will mentioned, there were a few options I had here. I stuck with my Dolphins. I went with Mike Gesicki at only 5,000. Another stack option for Tua. So see all the notes before for Tua and Waddle. Bad Jets secondary. Lots of points allowed. Running backs have COVID. Yada, yada, yada. But even beyond that, Gesicki has been he's one of the top tight ends for the season. As far as fantasy points, this is a guy who's been fairly consistent with the points that he scored at only 5,000. That's a good play. So I want to mention one other one, but I want to hear it. Will, was there any other Flyer tight ends that you thought might be of consideration here?
I mean, there's a lot of them, right? Like you could look in, you could Schultz, you could take Higbee. I mean, Higbee, like tight ends.
He just got cleared to come back. It was a false positive for Higbee. Yeah.
You could, I mean, look what Kittle just did to Seattle, right? Like, I mean, you could fly it on Higbee. You could fly it on, just a lot, a few of them. I probably wouldn't. I mean, Gesicki's priced less than Dawson Knox, and he's priced the same as Schultz, maybe Fant.
Well, Knox was my other one, the one that I was looking at originally. He was my Flyer last week and had a fantastic game helping the Bills come back. 5,100, has really come on lately. Game log, most recent matchups. Of course, my app freezes when I'm trying to bring up DraftKings. Shame on you, DraftKings. Okay. But Knox is the other one, 5,100.
Well, he had 19 against Tampa. He had a stinker against New England. He had 18 against New Orleans and 14.
Well, the entire offense stunk against New England. They had like 50-mile-per-hour winds to contend with, so I don't really factor that in. But yeah, if let's say you're playing Parker and Waddle with your Tua stack, you don't want to also play Gesicki. Maybe somebody like Knox, maybe somebody like Higbee is the option there. Moving on to defenses. You do not have any defenses written down, so we're just going to keep rolling here.
Yes, I do.
I don't see anything.
Oh, you're blind. So my first defense, my hire is cheaper than your hire. I got Dallas versus the Giants. I mean, Dallas's defense just randomly just goes nuts, and it's against probably Mike Glennon. I also, there's a couple different ways you can go, but then I think for a Flyer, I
had trouble with the Flyer defenses this week.
Yeah, I wrote down the Texans versus Houston, but that's it's Texans versus Jacksonville. I think you can kind of
Texans versus themselves.
Texans are not a great defense, right? But the Jags, they got 7 points. It was the first game of the year, if you remember. And the Jags are just a mess on offense. Yeah. A mess. Like, Trevor Lawrence just threw 4 picks. Like, you could do worse than just taking a flyer on that and hoping some crazy shenanigans work out.
So my hire, we're sticking with the Dolphins-Jets theme here. 3,700, for Miami, which for this matchup I actually think is low. And it's the defense I'm probably going to put in most of my lineups because, like I said, I didn't really like the Flyers. Over their past 5 games, all of which they have won, the Miami defense is averaging 14.4 points per game. And the Jets suck on both sides of the ball. They are 27th on DraftKings versus DSTs. We talked about all the reasons why the Dolphins are going to dominate this game. Zach Wilson has not looked good at all. That entire team is a mess. Not Jags mess, but like normal NFL mess. So I really like that play. Speaking of the Jags, I don't love this play strictly as a punt play. If you absolutely have no money left, I think Houston was more expensive, which is why I went with Jacksonville. So the Jacksonville Jaguars, 2,800 against that Houston team, which also sucks. Texans 32nd. So they're actually worse than Jacksonville. 32nd in the NFL in both total yards per game and points per game. That says it all. Punt play. Maybe it's a low scoring, absolutely disgusting game, and for that price you get some return. All right, so let's move on to a quick recap of our DFS leagues. First of all, our weekly free league on DraftKings. As always, free to enter. If you have not entered yet, it's DFS. You can enter in any week that you want. Send us an email, pigskinpartypodcast@gmail.com, or message us on Twitter at officialpppod. Just use promo code TPPN if you're a brand new user. Get yourself some free betting money on DraftKings. A recap for the week. Repeat winner. Second time he has won. Third time he has placed. $35 for first place to Joe Matthew 19 with 179 points. Great job, Joe. In second place at $15. Also a repeat winner and placer, The Flash 09010. 155.52, and in third place, El Frio with 150.04, $5. If you guys want your money, email the code phrase Josh One Man Army Allen. That's Josh One Man Army Allen. Nearly single-handedly made Will cry if the Bills would have won that game that he went to watch. Just email that to pigskinpartypodcast@gmail.com or official PPPod on Twitter. And a quick recap, finally, of our season-long DFS league on the other platform, which shall not be named. Jeff Schesser won Week 14. That is the first time I'm pretty sure he has won all year. This is also his first time doing DFS, so good for you, Jeff. And I'm going to call you out on the air, Jeff.
And he didn't even set a lineup.
Yes, and the only reason he did is because I texted him. I texted Jeff after the start of the early games and said, did you forget to set your DFS lineup? So what did he do? He set all afternoon lineup, and he ends up winning for the week. So good for you, Jeff, and you're welcome.
Scumbag.
Recap of our host standings. Will still in first by now a very comfortable margin at 1,795.94 points on the season. I am in second place with 1,601.46, and Tommy, not on here to defend himself, in last place at 1,576.52. Still close for us for second place, so he could definitely overcome, but I feel like I've been on a good streak lately. That is all we got for the main episode, Will. Will, any last thoughts before we wrap it up and record the flavor of the week?
Nope.
Short and simple. We will try to contact Tommy and see if his internet is back on, see if we can get him on for the flavor of the week for the week preview show coming up next. Don't forget to subscribe, tell your friends, 5-star review. Tune into our halftime show every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. Both Anthony and I, our producer, hop on halftime. Anthony puts the agenda together. We talk power rankings, QB index. We look at the playoff picture, do some start-sit advice. It's a lot of fun. Just download the halftime app on iTunes or Google Play. That's it. Thanks for watching or listening, and make sure to stick around for the flavor of the week.